Well, greetings to you. I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about global strategy. Strategy is something that we don't do very well in the West. We want everything today, or certainly tomorrow, and the Americans are worse than us. The Americans don't really do strategy. They want to know what the situation is, their chief executives and their politicians, in a few months' time. In Britain, we tend to think about things maybe what might happen in a year's time or 2 years' time. And of course, the Asiatics, the Chinese and the Japanese, they think in different timescales. They look much, much further ahead. They look decades ahead. And they plan accordingly. It doesn't matter whether it's energy supplies or whether it's manufacturing or it's geopolitical or geomilitary stances, so on and so forth. So we have different views on these matters. It's a sort of semi-cultural thing, really. Now, when we had an empire, we had very much more strategic necessities than anyone else. As anybody of my age remembers the old map of the British Empire, it was scanned the world. It was huge, geographically huge. Now, that's all gone, so our strategic needs are very much less than they used to be. Now, the Americans don't really understand the concept of strategy or the reasons for it in the main. And when I don't mean my friends, my very clever friends on the East Coast, I'm talking about the Washington people, soldiers and politicians, so on and so forth, who don't really understand these matters at all. They can't think strategically. Not everybody can think strategically. It takes a lot more depth. It takes a lot more intellectual commitment. But all we hear from America and Washington, and sadly our own rather dense people in London, is the domino theory, the theory that brought the United States into the war in Vietnam. That went well, didn't it? That somehow one falls, Ukraine falls, then it'll go slot all the way down the thing, and everybody else will suddenly find themselves being invaded by the Russian Federation. It's absolute and total nonsense. Nonsense. Believed only by idiot politicians and people who read the Daily Mail or the Daily Express in the pub who think they know all about it, and they don't. So, arguably, America has a strategic threat from China, and that's very much more an economic threat and a geopolitical threat, and that is understood because it threatens hegemony in the Pacific to America. But there's not much they can do about it because America's days as empire are over. It's finished now. The world's changed. The world's moved on. So what we need to bear in mind is sooner or later we're going to have to live with Russia, which is a major power. It's non-expansionist. If you look at a map and see it's NATO that's done the expansion in the Baltic states, Romania, Poland, and all the rest of it, as the Warsaw Pact has retreated. So we have to grow up. We have to all get along on this planet together. That doesn't mean to say you can let people ride roughshod over everybody, but at the moment, the people riding roughshod over everybody, generally speaking, is the United States of America, of course, and Israel, which used to be, the whole idea of Israel was a liberal democracy. Though those days have gone as well. And we are in danger in this country and Western Europe of being dragged into a war, maybe even a world war, which is not in our interests. I'm not a pacifist. I've said it before. I'm not a pacifist, but we do not want war. War is a very bad thing, and we need to negotiate with diplomacy to keep out of it. So strategic work needs to be done, and we can sit around a table and we can stop a war happening. At the moment, it's looking like everybody seems to want a war in the West. In the West, not in the East. BRICS countries don't want wars. It seems to be NATO, driven by America again, who seem to want all these wars. Please, think about it. Don't be swayed by what you read in the press, which of course is largely run by people who do not have your interests at heart. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research-based. And I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.